Hello and welcome to another episode of Finance and Technology Insights. Eric Buhrendorf is here. I'm Brian Williams. We're excited to get back into it after an exciting and I guess more eventful than exciting week. But how are you doing, Eric?
Doing good. Yeah, we're episode, what are we in? Episode 28.
28.
After a two week hiatus. We're not, it looks like we have some rust to knock off from our production processes. If you don't use it, you lose it, I guess. But
I guess so.
Yeah.
Did we miss 2 weeks or 1 week? It's been 2 weeks since we've been on.
I think 2 weeks. Yeah, we didn't record for 2 weeks.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay.
Or more, because we didn't record last week. We didn't record the week before. So just to catch everybody up, we took the girls to Florida, to Disney, and for a long weekend. And I think I don't know when was that. That was the 28th, I think. Yeah,
Okay.
we were gone the 28th through the 1st. We didn't record on the 2nd, and we didn't record on the 9th.
Wow. All right.
So finally, I got COVID. So I'm a part of the club now. I hate to admit that I have what I think they call is long COVID. So I had about 4 or 5 days of fever and aches and pains and just general lethargy. And that kind of went into last week, and I still kind of have what I describe as basically like heavy allergy symptoms, running nose, loose cough. I don't know if you can hear it. I kind of have, my lymph nodes are a little swollen still. So, so that was the last 2 weeks for me. How about you?
Yeah, you actually sound pretty good though. No, I don't think anybody would notice it unless you mention it. So
yeah, it is kind of like that at that point now where, I'm allowed to recirculate with the public based on the CDC guidelines. I don't feel like I'm shedding virus all over everything. My energy levels, I would probably say, are back to like 85, 90%.
okay.
My lungs do still feel a little, we walked the girls down to the center of the town over the weekend, and my blood pressure, I could, those times where like you can hear your heartbeat.
Yes.
So that's kind of where I'm at. But yeah, it'll go out like a lamb, I'm sure.
Good.
So tell us about what's going on with you the last 2 weeks.
Is there a specific time when they consider it to be long COVID? And I was going to ask you about the taste, your sense of taste too.
Oh yeah. So my taste was affected, but again, it felt more like, I don't know if you've ever suffered from allergies, but you know how like all the symptoms associated with drip, like when your mouth gets pasty. I mean, I know this is disgusting, but when you that whole your whole nose and nasal situation gets, whatever, that's what I experienced. I didn't experience some real marked drop off of my taste, like, oh, I've got COVID because I can't taste anything.
Right.
It was the sustained elevated fever that I had for 4 to 5 days. That was the real tell for me.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear you're feeling better, getting your energy back, and hopefully it's back for the weekend. You need a little bit more, at least if you're up moving around, right? You'd rather have that on the weekend. During the day, you can just kind of muscle through your work because you're not.
Yeah, I mean,
as physical.
I really didn't work much over the last. I probably would say I returned to work maybe last Thursday or so, but I took a good 10 days of like rest. I mean, you could stay on top of emails from your phone, and that's I stayed above water and things, but it was not a lot of kind of in the saddle working time for a long time, which is frustrating. And we were going to take the girls last week to a resort on the Sound. I forgot what town it was in, Westbrook or maybe Milford or something. We we booked a really nice overnight at a resort with some friends, and missed one of our very good friends' birthday. So
Mm,
it's kind of a disappointing situation. Plus, burning 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks of the summer is kind of frustrating. But
yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're looking for a sunny side up, it was a big vacation week. So I guess from a work standpoint, it was probably a little bit light as far as contacts and marketing
yeah,
and that sort of stuff. So, but
but
yeah, that is,
enough about me. I want to hear about the last 7 days of your
yeah.
existence. Tell
So
us all about that.
we did an Alaskan cruise. We flew so last Friday we went to left from Bradley and flew to Toronto, and then we had to rush through the airport to get our connecting flight to Vancouver because we were delayed coming out of Hartford significantly, and we had like a 3 hour gap there, but that just closed up. But so we were able to make that, and we got to Vancouver. We ended up staying there 2 nights, which was the plan, just to kind of get acclimated to the time change and give my son a kind of a rest there and go through our test again. He had the test again for COVID, but we didn't. So we because he's not vaccinated, so he's 4 years old, so he's not at that point yet. So yeah, and then we did our cruise. We did so we left on a Sunday and first day at sea, and then we did 3 stops with 2 of them we did excursions on, and then we sailed back to Vancouver and got off Sunday. Did not we did not stay in Vancouver when we got back, but we did stay in Toronto just because we got off the ship about 10 o'clock, and then by the time we flew to Toronto, it was so late. So luckily, my wife had the hotel booked in the airport, and we got into Toronto at 1:30 local time. So we stayed there, and then flew back to Bradley yesterday, and that was delayed too.
Uh,
But we got back home about, I don't know, I guess about 3 o'clock or so. So that was our exciting couple weeks. Really
so
good time.
let me ask: have
Yeah.
you ever taken a cruise before?
I have not. So we went with obviously my wife and my son, my mother-in-law, and her sister. So my wife's aunt. They're bigger cruisers than me or my family is, and I still kind of have mixed feelings. I don't think my opinions on cruises really changed going through the experience, but
Oh, was there
it's
any
kind of,
cool factor about being on a big boat and being on the ocean and a hotel on the water kind of
yeah,
thing?
yeah, all that stuff. I mean, just the obviously I'd seen cruise ships and stuff, so you're familiar with the size, but just the idea of being on that big of a, because it is technology, right? As we talk about finance and technology, it is a big floating piece of different technology and all that goes into running that. And it's an all-inclusive resort on the water is what it is. So you're everything that's involved in that. When you take a step back and think about from the cooking to the cleaning to the plumbing to the electricity to the Wi-Fi to all that stuff, it's really you are really in awe of it, the whole process, and the
And what
fact
about
that
the
we're actually
size
one of
being
them.
on it? Is it just, I mean, is it just so big being on a cruise? I mean, I've never been on a cruise. I've never been on even, I mean, I've seen them, you see them kind of like pass through a harbor or
Yeah.
something, but being on it, was it just big feeling?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's certain times you forget you're on a boat,
If you're on
definitely.
the interior or something, you're in like a foyer or a lobby or,
Yeah, or even just like we had a balcony room, and you close the blinds, you close the shades or whatever, and it's like you're in a hotel room. A little bit smaller than you might think, but you're in that space, and then you open the blinds and you see the water moving. It's a little bit weird. You're like, oh yeah, we
could you
we are on
feel
a
the
floating
listing while
vessel.
you're in bed, or was that, did
Uh,
that,
I really didn't. There was one night when it was a little bit choppy and my wife was asleep and I was just kind of laying there. But it didn't make me sick. It didn't prevent me from falling asleep. I was awake just for other reasons or natural cycle or whatever. But it didn't bother me. I didn't take any sort of medication. My wife does some stuff. Just like that, that thing you put behind your ear, one of those
some
things
magnets?
to. So she does that. Sometimes does that when she flies too. But I didn't take anything. I'm normally pretty good about that stuff. Like I don't have issues with flying, or so I figured I'm not going to take anything, in advance of it. Let me get on, let me see how it goes. And so I didn't have any problem with that.
All right, so tell me now about like the destination. When I think of a cruise, like sure, send me to the Caribbean. Let's go to flying to Miami, warm shorts,
Mhm.
sun, islands, beach, whatever. I personally internally have no ambition to go on a cruise to Alaska.
Mhm.
What was your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so pretty much the exact opposite. So the idea of using a cruise as like a method of transportation is extremely inefficient. Like I have no like, cruising to taking a cruise across the Atlantic or something like that. I don't have any interest in that because there's more efficient ways to get to London. So but the cruise in this instance, you're going through you're going through that channel. You are out in the Pacific kind of on the way back, but so the cruise is part of the sightseeing expedition, and there's from a glacier standpoint, and whether it's looking for whales or dolphins or whatever, there's no other method to do that other than be in a boat. So the fact that the cruise is part of the experience, I wouldn't have any interest in being on a cruise where it's just ocean on both sides for 7 days or whatever. I don't. But there was so much of it, to sit out on the balcony and look at the mountains or see dolphins or whales or glaciers, like that's part of. So for me, that kind of made sense. It's like, all right, well, there's no other way to see this stuff other than be on a boat. So if that's also your method of getting to Juneau, then that makes sense to me. So
And was the sites interesting enough to warrant the effort?
yeah, yeah. So I enjoyed it because it's not like an all-encompassing thing. It's almost like just to be able to sit on the balcony and read a book, or listen to music, or just to observe it as you're passing, I think is interesting. So I enjoyed that more
Cool.
so than I would enjoy just being looking at empty water. That
Sure.
wouldn't
Right. Right. Right.
really
But I
interest
mean,
me.
from the north cool climate to, like I said, I'd rather be sailing the Caribbean, rather than sailing the Alaskan coast. But
Yeah.
you're both or either or
Well, so yeah, definitely, cruising Alaska is something I'd prefer rather than
huh.
being at sea. I like the extra daylight. That was kind of interesting, and then we were very lucky from a weather standpoint. So Alaska August rains like 60% of the time,
Oh wow.
and so there's almost through the course of 24 hours, there's almost some form of precipitation every day. So we were very lucky and caught none of that. The temperatures were in the seasonal range, but kind of at the high end of that. So you're waking up to low 50s and peaking out at almost 70. So, I mean, if you're up walking around and that's all you want anyway, it's not, if you're sitting on a beach, might feel a little bit cold, but if you're in town and,
Yeah.
you got a t-shirt and pants on, I mean, it's ideal,
Cool.
especially if you're doing any excursions where there's some walking involved or whatever. So we got very lucky there. So it's one of those things where you want to talk about the what a good time you have, but you have to put those caveats on it because somebody might do the exact same thing and it might rain for 7 days straight and
Right.
talk about
Right.
what a bad experience they had. So you try not to let your personal experience affect how you would kind of give a fair assessment of the whole thing. But yeah, we were extremely lucky from a weather standpoint.
And
So
you guys made landfall a couple of times, you said, for some
we
for some
did, we
sightseeing. I
did.
heard the mosquitoes in Alaska in the summer can be crazy. Anything like that?
It's weird. We were prepared for that, and we thought it would come, but we had no issue with that at all. Um, I
Cool.
don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why we didn't, unless the mosquitoes there are so used to having it rain that's their preferred environment or
Hmm.
whatever. And since they weren't getting a rain, maybe it was too warm for them or whatever. But yeah, we didn't have any issues with that at all. So I guess we got pretty lucky on that front too.
Cool.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, seeing the glaciers was interesting. there's one spot, you can't go through that stuff without thinking about, climate and climate change stuff. And one of the glaciers that we went to had pictures of the receding, had a picture of the same glacier from, the 20s to the 40s, the 60s, the 80s, and it's definitely receding. That's definitely a factor there. And it was not, the position we were in was not maybe as thrilling as it was 50 years ago or even 10 years ago. So that's a factor. You think about that stuff too. But so yeah, we had a really good time, and my son had no issues. He was good. The boat didn't bother him at all. He was running around with his grandma and his aunt and with
Yeah, the
us. So
pictures
yeah,
you sent were pretty cool.
yeah, he was loving it. So yeah, so that was our last week or 10 days or so. So back at it today. I thought I'd be okay with the time change just because we were up so late. We thought we'd be so tired that so my wife went to bed normal time here, and so did my son. But I was like wide awake, stayed up a little bit later, and slept a little bit later today. But should be back on track as of tonight. So
Good.
yeah.
So what's let's see what's going on with Northshire.
Well, I love that still. That's so great.
I do too.
Yeah, so it was just a matter of like like you said, trying to be, you were sick, I was away, but same sort of thing. You're nothing necessarily proactive. It's just reactive stuff. We were a little bit disappointed in the Wi-Fi capabilities of the ship. So
They don't have Starlink yet.
yeah, they had they have two options, and they build one as like basic internet, and they said best for emails or whatever, and the other one was called like something streaming
Turbo.
plus for whatever, but there was no possible way you could use it for any sort of streaming. So it was other than email, it was pretty much tough to do anything, which was probably a good thing.
Put the devices down. Go look at the
Yeah,
glacier.
right, exactly. And so I was, a couple times I was kind of bummed that I wasn't able to do certain things business wise that I wanted to do, but I was like, if the trade-off is not seeing a bunch of 15-year-olds recording TikToks on the deck all day, it's probably worth it. The other thing that's you have to know about cruises is they're really very limited in the electrical outlets, and they don't let you bring any sort of the ships are all a little bit different, but they shy away from you using any sort of power strips or extension cords or anything like that. So you have two plugs in in our room. We had two plugs, nothing in the bathroom. So that was it. And you could walk all over the ship and not find any plugs anywhere, even in the business center. Their business centers. I use the air quotes there, but so they had this business center with like 6 or 7 desktops, and I'm like, oh, I'll go there and be able to plug in and get some juice, and nothing anywhere. So
Wow.
there was one morning where I was up at like 3, and I was like, all right, let me just grab my laptop, let me go somewhere and work, and it hadn't been charged. And there was really like nowhere to plug in. So again, it's one of those trade-offs where I'm like, you know what, it kind of sucks for me in this instance because I'm looking for that. But man, do you really want to walk out on like be walking around the pool or around the deck somewhere and just see a bunch of people like plugged in on? It's like I don't want to see that either. So it's that constant kind of like I wish I had it only for myself, but overall, I think it probably made the experience better for everybody. And
Spoken like a true Democrat.
yeah, I guess so. So they
Couldn't help it.
I always kind of joke about about like Disney, because my wife is in Disney, and I'm like, you know what? If you see a family of 3 or 4, like there's a pretty good chance one of them is having a miserable time. That's just the way it is. It's like either the dad doesn't want to be there, or the
Yeah,
mom's.
I could speak to that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, or like the kids too hot or hungry. It's like, but I didn't see that in the cruise, and I saw a lot of teens hanging out with their parents, probably because they couldn't go online, but all ages. And I know it's kind of I think cruise is still the best place for like a multiple generation trip, So if it's kids, parents, grandparents, or I think all that, I mean, cruise is perfect for that. It really is. So So I did really enjoy that. I know we're on my business segment, but I thought I'd tell
So you
that
didn't
little
work much.
story.
You didn't work much on the cruise.
No, just a lot of just like you did, replying to emails and nothing. I have
Do you
my
want to
idea notebook, which is like full of stuff, which is like
tell?
probably half nonsense as I go back and read it. But
So I give you throughout, you and I communicate throughout the week, which is a lot of fun. But I give you a lot of I try to save as much of our deep conversations for either over lunch or our show.
mhm,
It's not because I'm disinterested. What I want to hear about, if you're willing to talk about it, is
yeah,
your last email marketing.
yes.
You want to speak to that?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we haven't done a show in a while. So I had done, it
Well,
was
last
kind of
time we
funny.
spoke, you said you sent out a pretty lofty email campaign, right?
I did. So the first part that was kind of funny is I used Send and Blue for my email marketing. So they're very similar to like a MailChimp or Constant Contact. I stumbled on them because when I was, I think, on MailChimp, but I went there because their high volume stuff was a little bit expensive. So once you get into higher levels of contact, MailChimp and Constant Contact were a lot more expensive. So I used Send and Blue, and I actually thought my email limit per month was 200,000, and it was 20,000. So I had prepared this list, but this very long list, which I wasn't able to do, but um, anyway, so I did send 17,000 emails. This was from a Connecticut business list. This was and it was, I thought a decent value add. It wasn't necessarily a huge sales thing or call to action. It was, in Connecticut and a lot of other states, there's a mandate for a retirement plan. So the first mandate already passed, 100 or more employees. At the end of October, it's 25 or more employees. And then March, it's 5 or more employees. And all businesses are going to wait to the last minute. You know how it is, but this isn't something you need to just wait and think about 2 days before your deadline. So it was, briefly explaining the program, putting the disclaimer in there that I'm not affiliated with the program, but here's the mandate. So there's really two parts. There's the mandate, and also the state of Connecticut is running their own platform. Bless you. And they have their own platform. So the call to action was to sign up for a webinar it was a webinar or a LinkedIn event. I forget, but I do have a LinkedIn event coming. And then if not, schedule 15 minutes to chat. So,
So 17,000, a value, like an informational
mhm.
piece, an offer for a webinar. How many positive respondents did you get?
I think about 5 or so people actually booked time or signed up for the event, which was pretty good. Um,
That's
the
one per
unsubscribed was
3,000.
less. I'm sorry, what?
That's like one lead per 3,000 emails.
Yes, I had 2,700 openers, which is pretty good, around 17%, I guess. 2% were clickers and about 150 unsubscribed, less than 1%. So that's a
Not
pretty
bad.
good sign, I guess. Um, you start to, like we talked about, once you start to get you draw a line through the idea of small sample size, right? Once you start to get these numbers up. So I'll be curious to see how those numbers, if I get better, if openers depends on your subject line, obviously, and then clickers depends on your content, and then unsubscribe depends, I guess, more on the quality of your list. Sorry, the quality of your list, or
Right.
your
And I think
engagement.
um give me a sound check.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're a little distant there.
Yeah, dropping my microphone off here.
So that's good. Yeah, the quality of the content too is important. That's one thing that we're transitioning into. We're transitioning our content from more of an advertisement, a
Mhm.
self-advertising content. We started in social, and we're really trying to. I built a team to conceptualize valued content. And we don't want to we want to really transition to putting out only content that really helps people,
Right.
or brings them any value, which is kind of goes without saying, but it's sometimes the learning curve can be steep for
Yeah,
us.
well, it does, and it doesn't. It's amazing how many. Facebook posts or LinkedIn posts, or just like no value add. It's just a pure advertisement without paying for advertisement, or how many emails that are just, strictly to that call for action. That's like, hey, can you book an appointment? Here's my
Right.
calendar. It's like, I don't even know what you do. Just scroll down to your email signature to even find what company you work for.
Right.
But
We're guilty of that on the social side, but we've been working on that pretty consistently, trying to, offer some value to the community.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And there's certainly a lot to be had out there, and you want to be, you start to be positioned not only well for clients, but and I know you've seen this too, but you end up, your peers, look out to you. And some of the best information I get is from, following other advisors on LinkedIn and Facebook, and seeing what they're doing. And just I'm in one group in particular that has like the oddest, like oddball questions, which I like to like. Somebody posted yesterday is like, one of my clients is looking to purchase a bread route. Does anybody else have any information on that, or any ROI calculations? It was just such an oddball thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you positioned you with clients and positioned you as an industry leader and stuff too. So since I've been more active on social over the summer, get more sales calls, of course, but also I've had people reach out and be like, oh yeah, I've seen your content, you're doing a lot more, and from industry people and whatever. So that's pretty cool.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah. So what's going on in EverNet? Let's play your clip here.
I love the binary code on that. It's so funny. So appropriate.
We're gonna find out it means something like terrible, or it's like some horrific virus or something.
Right. So what's new with us? We did some hiring, so we're expanding our team. We're bringing on. Well, we just brought in another resource on the marketing team. We're bringing on another technical resource presently. I've finished this internal project. I've spoken way too much about it at this point, but it's kind of pretty impactful. But basically finished integrating my HR software with all of my business software. So when we bring in a new resource, that resource propagates across all of our software and provisions their user account across all of our software. And then I implemented what's called single sign-on. So again, not only are they provisioned, but they log in through our identity provider, which is our email system. And now they have like one-click access to all of the applications we use. And we use at least a half a dozen softwares daily, heavily to run our business. And it just lowers the bar for new team members, new employees. The learning curve can be pretty steep for a new employee. So it's just all in that effort to just really lower the learning curve and the onboarding burden, I guess, for new employees. So that's pretty exciting.
How long does it take when you hire somebody to get through what you would consider onboarding and then start to work?
I mean, I've had new employees not be really productive. Um, some have come online and within a day or two and have been incredibly productive. One of our newest hires is like incredibly astute when it comes to the tools and the methods, and I only have to show him one thing once and he gets it. I've had some resources take 6 months before they really kind of understood the paradigm around the tool set that we use in the workflow. And in retrospect, maybe those weren't the best resources. I tend to try really hard to develop people. And I probably don't throw in the towel on people fast enough. And I think that's one of my managerial problems is I try to find the value and opportunity in everybody and kind of help develop them. A good resource should be online and gelling within a week or two, I think is where we're coming from. One of the parts of the projects, this whole HR project that I've done over the last 6 months is implement a learning management system,
Okay.
which is basically a software that it's basically like if you've ever taken an online course, it's
Mhm.
basically a portal that a company can curate their own online courses. Actually, there's a tool that allows us to sell courses if we wanted to. So you can use it internally for your company, or you can or sell courses. And like if you were a consultant or something, you may have seen those online. But we're in the process of basically codifying our entire onboarding and training processes in video assets, basically recording a training with a real person, and then basically using that video asset as using that training as a video asset for a particular course. And then the cool thing is you can then assign like an assessment to each course. So it's like watch the video, answer these questions. For us, we don't see any value in maybe more than 5 questions or something per
Yeah.
video asset, because it's all about offering the training and then measuring the training.
Right.
Like are you actually learning that? And that's something I'm really excited about over the next year or so, implementing, because the idea is I can't tell you how many times I've trained, and all of our team leaders have trained new resources repeatedly in the same exact process or procedure. And if you could just capture that in a video and then just assign that video learning to the new resource and basically say, okay, on your first week, just go through all of this training and then report back. And then your team leader will, see your measurement scores and things through that. And then effectively, the goal, on Monday of week 2, when you start talking to the resource and about this or about that, they don't have that like distant gaze and the glossy eye look. It's
Yeah.
so that's what we're because we're running a consultancy, which is effectively what we are. We're a service business. We're a consulting company. Effectively, we're a service company. Over the last 20 years of doing this, it's the hardest business you can run. And when I sell this business or retire or move on, I always tell my wife, I'm going to go like open a hot dog stand somewhere.
Lemonade stand. You've got experience.
Yeah, I'm going to open a lemonade stand with the girls, or like go just rent mopeds on some like resort
Yeah.
island or beach. You know what I mean? Like it's just so transactional. It's like, here's the thing. Do you want it or not? Here's the money. Like, enjoy,
Yep.
Running a consulting company is like, it's such an intellectual product that you're selling. And then there's it's all service, and not that I'm afraid of offering service. I've always been in service. But it's just incredibly difficult to grow that and scale that and maintain a quality product. So
Yeah. And pricing is a challenge too. What's the appropriate price and value, and is every single client getting the value that they're paying for? That's always, a challenge for me. If you've got clients who are more needy and they're paying the same as some clients who are less needy, one's essentially subsidizing the other, and
right.
you get in. But once you go down that pricing rabbit hole, it's hard to come back out of. But
that's why slinging hot dogs or renting mopeds. It's like
exactly. Yep. Here's what it is. Here's the price. Exchange for goods, services, and you're done.
So
So what did you find is a good video length for your training videos? How long do you make those?
That's to be determined, but
Okay.
I'm guessing it seems like most people today don't want to sit through more than like an 8 to 12 minute video, right? I mean,
I had
think
written
about what
down
the
8 to
target,
12. That's what I have.
huh?
I had written down 8 to 12.
Did you really write that
Yeah.
8 to 12?
Yeah.
Yeah. The YouTube algorithms are the same way. You don't
Mhm.
see a lot of YouTubers out there. I mean, really 12 minutes seems like a really common 8 to 12 really. And you do see, so a lot of my YouTubers do like 18 minutes, 19 minutes, sometimes 23 minutes. But, our long form video here, like, nobody wants to see that stuff. It's
Right.
I do like I do have a couple podcasters that do long form and talk about specific subject matters, but when you're doing like an information transfer, it seems like 8 to 12 minutes is really a target
Yeah.
time for that.
I think so. I can only go about 12 minutes without getting a snack anyway, so
Or
that's ideal.
checking your email or checking your text or like
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's from a 100% attention. I mean, even the longer form stuff that I listen to or watch, it's usually secondary. It's going to be on in the background, and if you miss something, you can just go back and rewind
Right.
it, or you miss a segment or something. But no, that's interesting. So is your ultimate goal be like, all right, I want to get to onboarding in this team or this department is 20 hours. We know that's what it takes every time, or do you have like an hour goal in mind? Is that
No,
and
I think like the first. I think that everybody should be able to be onboarded within the first week of employment. Like it just feels like it's like the first week of school. Like only the tough teachers are really like bearing down on the students within the first week of school from an educational standpoint, because there's always forms and there's always introductions and names and acclimation. And I'm that kind of leader. Like I don't really want anybody to stress around me or for what I'm asking of them at all. So in my mind, I feel like the first week is really just should be orientation, knowledge transfer, training, that sort of thing, which I think, surprisingly, the curriculum that we have put together, we've put the whole curriculum together so far from like a curriculum or syllabus standpoint. So we have what we want to train. So now we just have to populate it with the training video and assessment assets. And then we have some more learning that we have to do about the platform on how best to implement that. Should all the trainings just be open, or how best to kind of lead them by the nose through the most optimal path? Because a lot of the trainings, like, you don't want to really learn about this software or this task in this software until you get the overview of that software. And you can't get in this software unless you first log into your email. You know what I mean? So it's like it's really kind of developmental like that. So we have to kind of sort that out. And but I think a week is going to be definitely enough time to do the knowledge transfer. And the cool thing too is using it to reinforce processes. We're pretty operationally mature at this point. Our team is really operating on all cylinders. But there has been times where like somebody's not following, for whatever reason, they jumped the track on a given process or something. And then, rather than be disciplinary about it, you just say like, one of the team leaders or something can just reassign the training to that resource and just, use 10 minutes, do the assessment, move on,
right. Is your do you have the training set up is there any leeway based on somebody's experience? So let's say you had a 12-minute video on using Teams or something, and somebody comes in and they're like, oh, I'm a Microsoft Teams expert. Can I, switch out of that segment, or do you give any leeway there?
For 12 minutes, we would rather just have you take the training, because it's always, all of the training is going to be in the context of how we use the tools.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to, even if you are a Teams expert, and we do use Teams heavily, there's still context in the way that we use Teams.
And do you integrate all your HR stuff with that too, like your sexual harassment training and all that sort of stuff?
That's a great question. Well, yes. So there are, fortunately, this platform has off-the-shelf trainings like sexual harassment and discrimination and all that based on the state's Department of Labor requirements, we can buy for a pretty reasonable price and then just assign it. So yeah, you can kind of build in necessary trainings like that. One of the things that we're thinking about and we're exploring, we do sell and dog food, which means we use it ourselves internally, a security awareness training platform.
Right.
And that's a really important piece. And we are looking at whether our LMS can also be that. But
LMS
stands for Learning Management System.
Okay.
And if you Google, I bet you if you Google LMS, you'll see all of the key players out there, because it's an up and coming kind of product. The top 5 LMS softwares. This is a really strategic advantage that companies can employ. I guess I don't mean to sell it. We don't resell an LMS, but we can help implement the LMS and right. train to the value of it for a company. And that's certainly one thing that we can do. But an LMS is really going to be a competitive advantage for the companies who see the value in it. Again, just for the reason of like knowledge transfer, getting an employee up to speed, part of the disciplinary process. Again, I hate the word disciplinary because it is negative, but like if somebody, like I said, jumps a track on a process, just for whatever reason, they've done it repeatedly. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but like even in your house, it's like somebody do the same thing like every single day, every single week. And then all of a sudden, like, it's just, wait, where's this thing? Why is this different? You know what I mean?
Okay.
A company really is stronger when you have those like regularities and that consistency in your processes. So like for whatever reason, if somebody just, it's usually because if somebody doesn't use the process frequently, they'll kind of forget how to do it or something. So those cases, you could just reassign the training and say, hey, this is how we do that.
Right.
And that's part of the kind of the Department of Labor's kind of expectations of, termination process and things like that. So like, if you have an employee who's not following a process and you reissue the training uniformly, and they through the assessment have demonstrated that they understand it, and then continue not to follow the process, now you can say to the Department of Labor, like, this is a willful insubordination or something. Unfortunately, employment requires that.
Right. You can't have an employee say, well, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that, so I'm worth. They terminated me unduly. You know what I mean? And now give me unemployment for the next 6 to 8 months on their dime.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's good. Yeah, that is exciting stuff, and it's good that you're going through the process so you can, help your clients go through the same thing, right?
Yeah, well, we dog food a lot of these technologies that we help our clients with. I had, and that's the other thing I'm looking forward to with our marketing machine, is helping get this content out, like in a helpful context. Like, this is how you can use your LMS. This is how security awareness training, all this stuff. I just had a client who we've been servicing for well over 10 years call us and say, we're having trouble with our phones. Like, we're thinking about this, we're thinking about that. And we're like, yeah, do you want us to help you? And she's like, oh, do you guys do phones? And I'm like, yes, we do phones. We do phones.
Yeah.
So,
isn't that, yeah, it's crazy sometimes when that happens. You have this other line of business, and it happens to me all the time because I end up talking about 401k and retirement plans so much, especially because my, with the Connecticut mandate and stuff. But I've had people say to me like, man, I wish you managed personal money too. And I'm like, drives you nuts. But that's on me. It's my fault, not theirs. But,
yeah. And that's part of the market. Yeah, exactly. That's the stream of marketing. That's what marketing should do, is just inform and that sort of thing. One of the things, I don't know, did I tell you about the ad banner that we put in our corporate email signature?
You did. Yeah. I think you showed me that. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
So yeah, a few weeks ago or a few months ago, we implemented a product that allows us to centrally administer our corporate email signature for all of our resources, and we can dynamically insert their names and their emails and their extensions and that sort of thing. And it's really nice. It solves a problem of just unifying your messaging and your presentation to your network out there. And I just had the idea. I was like, you know what? Let's just put an ad banner in the email signature in a tasteful kind of way, because I looked at our mail server, and I think we're sending like 17,000 emails a month from our organization.
Wow.
So I said, well, that's 17,000 opportunities to educate the employee or the client base and whatever. And it's not
17,000. Sometimes I have that before breakfast.
And hopefully we continue to remain tasteful in the way that we do that. So it's just more about trying to educate, like, yes, like we're going to do one that says like, yes, we also do phones. Yes,
Right.
we do phones.
Yeah. And that's where like a newsletter or some of your other content comes in too,
Right.
All sort of ties together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
people don't think about security on phones too, but your phones can be hacked and tapped into as much as your email can.
Yeah, I mean, but we're not just a security company; we're a systems company. We're the entire IT function for a business. Doctor's office, lawyer, law firm, whatever. Like, even though you might have an IT resource in house, there's more work than can be done by one resource. And certainly, your attorney or your doctor or your dentist should not be managing their phone systems. I mean, it's just not appropriate. So. Just like an accounting firm, we're a resource that can be relied on to manage a function within the business.
Right. Yeah.
So let's do a little housekeeping. We're Finance and Technology Insights with Brian and Eric. We have a podcast and a YouTube channel that I'm going to put up. Here's my website, evernetco.com. Brian's Northshire
Oh,
Consulting.
geez, we didn't even talk about that. I did a little redesign of my website.
Oh yeah. That's right. I forgot
That was a
that.
while
I see
back,
your
but yeah.
social icons are up on the top. That's wonderful.
Yep. Yeah.
Um, and we do have finance and technology. Our primary resource is finance and technology insights YouTube channel. Give us a like and subscribe if you're there. And we do have a Facebook group that I'm not, and a Facebook page I'm not going to bring up because I think somebody just messaged me on Facebook. So that's a little housekeeping for us. Normally, by now on the tail end of the show, we talk about current events as we bring it out. We're at the 45-minute mark. You want to chat about anything in the news?
So I was kind of a little bit out of it from a news standpoint. So I know you posted some pretty good stuff, so I was gonna try to catch up on that.
A little bit. Nothing. It's been kind of a dull news cycle. So I mean, I was just populating some news articles. So for the viewers out there, all 16 of you, we post news articles on our Facebook page. To give us some things to talk about on during our news segment. We need a news. Oh, we do have a news segment. I love that. So I guess I'll bring up the page again. But you know me, I like the urban air mobility stuff. United Airlines just pre-ordered $10 million worth of air taxis.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to read that article. I did see that does look pretty interesting. And they're not obviously self-driving or anything, right? There's pilots involved there.
Yeah, so the news cycles keeps. It seems like the plan for all these companies. There's a number of companies that are working on urban air mobility. It's a combination of urban air mobility and the electrification of flight. So a lot of these are eVTOLs. They call them electric vehicle vertical takeoff and landing craft.
Yep.
It seems like they're going to be piloted initially, and I actually think that's unfortunate because ultimately it's going to increase the price of the transport for one, which is going to, they keep saying that this is not going to be a rich man's mode of transport. It's going to be, everybody's going to be able to use this, but in my opinion, that's not going to be the case until these things are autonomous.
Correct.
Because the cost of the flight, when you add in the cost of the pilot, is just going to make it an extremely premium service. But I mean, I guess that's how all things happen. I mean, the new technologies come out, the the new technology is expensive. So it's the people with the money get to use it and try it. And so I guess by the time it comes out to the everyman, it will be autonomous.
On that type of vehicle there, how much landing space does that need?
So there's a number of companies. I would guesstimate maybe 10 to 20 real viable companies working on this, spending billions of dollars on this. I forgot who this company is, Archer, or this is Archer Aviation. So the competing designs are either static props that, like your typical DJI quadcopter, or articulating props. And there's benefits to each. With the articulating props, you can have fewer propellers and better lateral speed performance, because it turns into a helicopter in this form factor when it goes up. And then if you notice that they actually have a wing here, so as it transitions to forward flight, the wing carries the majority of the load, and the props just are the motor propulsion. So these typically have longer range, but they do introduce the complexity of the articulating propeller, which whenever there's complexity, there's room for failure there.
Right.
I forgot what your answer was. I mean, your
I
question.
asked how much landing space they need.
Oh,
Yeah.
so the landing space, yeah, zero. These most of these operate like helicopters.
Yeah. So you need the space of a helicopter pad, right? So they're not going to land in a Walmart parking space, but maybe a parking lot. Maybe Walmart has maybe 2 or 3 spots or something like that.
I mean, one of my predictions is that all these malls that are going out of business are going to turn
Mhm.
into a combination of fulfillment centers for
Sure.
Amazon and urban air mobility centers. Because
Yeah.
if you think about it, like these are designed for like 100-mile hops. So, you're in Southington, so I don't know what box store is going out of business or mall you have over on Queen Street or something, but you know, if there is one, you could conceive that a big, you just drive from your house to Queen Street and then you pick up, you and your family get in one of these, and you either go to Bradley to get your bigger connection,
Right.
or New York City, Newark, LaGuardia,
Yeah.
um, JFK to get your international hop. So then you don't even have to necessarily take a hop to Bradley to
Right.
take another hop. You know what I mean? And imagine that you just now you're in flight from your town. For us, we're in West Hartford. We have the West Farms Mall. They're trying to keep that place open, but I think there's a lot of vacancies there. That
Right.
parking lot at West Farms is always, there's a lot of space there not being used. So my prediction is that malls, as they decay as a result of whatever internet e-commerce is doing to retail, I think those spaces are going to easily be repurposed as urban air mobility centers.
Yeah, and you obviously got weight issues involved there too, but you've got the whole potentially roofs of these structures, you got that too.
Yeah,
Um,
my dad and I were kind of postulating about that too. Like, you could imagine your drive to one of these centers, and yeah, the weight is going to be a biggie. So is it, 2 or 4 bodies max? You can imagine that, like, if you have luggage, you maybe send your luggage ahead on one, and you
yeah.
check in your luggage maybe at that spot. You know what I mean? So your luggage goes ahead of you, the bodies go next.
Mhm.
Um, you know,
Yeah, but in the instance of, like you said, the short hops for shopping or something like that, there's certainly and that maybe that's what brings malls back, right? You've got that one central location that has all the stores you want, so you just land on the
oh,
roof
that's interesting.
and go down. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
for sure.
interesting. Yeah, you could have, you right. This could bring back the concept of kind of dense commerce retail.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Um, because then you go back and forth between downtowns and suburbia, and everybody's trying to bring back the downtown. But this I don't know if you've got parking down there or whatever. This could be something that pushes it back out to the malls. Who knows?
Yeah, and I think this is gonna. I think this technology is definitely going to drive people out to the rural areas. I mean, think about it.
Mhm.
Like, if you can go live out in Litchfield or at the Adirondacks and live in
Mhm.
some quiet town 100, 150 miles away, and um, get your 5 acres of land for significantly less money, and you want to still catch a show or shopping, rather, without driving around the mountains and the hills for an hour and a half
Mhm.
for 2 hours. You just grab one, hail one of these in your local community, and it's really compelling to see how this is going to transform
Yeah,
our
and when you talk
culture.
about 100-mile range, I don't think most people realize how much is within a 100-mile range because you associate that with driving. 100 miles by air is obviously it covers a significant, much more
Right, a
range.
hundred miles on your car's odometer is not as far as 100 miles as a crow flies. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's a good point.
yeah. Be curious what 100 miles from New York City looks like. Just a pure radius from that. I have to believe that I'm in it, right? You're about Hartford. Is that within a 100-mile range in New York? It's got to be. I would think so,
I'm
right?
not the
Oh,
best Google Mapper. I know they have some cool
no,
tools on here. Is there a straight line tool on here?
I don't know.
I know they have some tools on here. I don't know.
Big radius tool, Stats America. This should be fun.
I know there's like some keyboard commands, Control Shift. Let's do NYC to Hartford, Connecticut. So that's 118 miles, and that's pretty straight. So you can imagine direct Hartford to New York City.
Yep.
And that looks like lower Manhattan too. So that's about 100 miles.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Pretty neat, right?
Yeah. Anyway, so that's good news. What's your estimate time wise on this?
On the
In what year can I pick up my phone and do an Uber for one of these things and be in New York in an hour?
2032.
All right. I was gonna guess
2032.
2035. So we'll see. We'll put
No, they keep saying that it's 10 years, 10 years, 10 years, but I've been following this pretty closely, and they're dumping billions of dollars into the development of this. And and they have the backers of the likes of Uber, the airlines. So I don't think they're going to, I don't think this is going to go backwards, and I think the adoption curve is going to be pretty fast. So we'll see. And the interesting thing is, there's going to be a total convergence. All this is going to happen when, drone delivery from Amazon. You want to order chapstick, you're going to have it in 20 minutes, and from a little drone dropping it, parachuting it on your front door, hailing an autonomous Uber to the city. And urban air mobility. What's really going to be fascinating is all three of these technologies are going to kind of happen at the same time, and it's really going to blow our hair back, I think.
Yes, yeah, I would agree with that. It's coming faster than you think.
It's coming fast. So there's our first day back after 2 weeks. My name is Eric Buhrendorf. I'm the CEO of EVERNET Consulting. We're America's leading IT services provider for businesses throughout the country. And I'm joined every Tuesday morning by my friend and colleague, Brian Williams.
Yeah, we're Northshire Consulting, an independent advisory firm in Connecticut, serving families and businesses to work on them, help them with their investments and their future financial outlooks. And our online stuff is usually under 401k and beyond. So that's our YouTube channel, Instagram, TikTok, a little bit there. And our website is northshireconsulting.com. That's about 80% through a redesign. A couple things I got to tweak there,
good.
but yeah. So the logo, once you scroll down, looks a little better, but on the first page, it blends in with the picture too much. But put the contact form on the front page and put the socials on there and a couple other little menu changes. But
and there's mine right there, evernetco.com, everybody.
Awesome. So we'll see you next week.
See you next week, Brian.